All right, welcome back, everybody. Matt Malko here at NBC Sports Bay Area, bringing you an update after the Sunday slate of games. 49ers had their bye week, of course. They returned to practice on Monday, but I would say that Sunday did not go all that great for them, and I'll tell you why. But first, this is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery. It's a brewery, a restaurant, beer garden, all in the very family-friendly location in Moraga, right down the street from where I live. And I'm a frequent visitor to Canyon Club Brewery. And keep an eye out for this. It's coming soon to the Livery in Danville. So that should be a fantastic spot and a spot that I will certainly hit quite regularly, either just on the weekends when I have some spare hours, or maybe even on my drive home to stop by and say hello. So, anyway, Canyon Club Brewery located in Moraga and coming soon to Danville. Okay, I'm a little bit skeptical about the 2024 San Francisco 49ers. And a lot of it is just because of what I've seen from this team so far, where they've yet to string together two consecutive wins. They're at the 500 mark, and probably you could make a case that the easiest part of their schedule has already come and gone. And you just look at the first four games coming out of the bye week, and going to Tampa. It shouldn't be that easy of a game, but you never know when you have to travel cross country like that. 49ers do have the rare advantage of having some rest advantage. They, for the second year in a row, have the worst rest disadvantage in the entire NFL. And this year, they're at a negative 21 days rest disadvantage. And that is even with this coming up 8-day rest advantage because they have the bye week. And then Tampa Bay plays Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's basically a +8 for the 49ers as far as a rest advantage. But net, they're negative 21. But after Tampa Bay, they have Seattle at home and then on the road for back-to-back road games, which could be very difficult at Green Bay and at Buffalo. But the thing that's kind of concerning, I would say, if you're a 49er fan, and why I think this is a very difficult road for them, is just when you look at the NFC West. What I tried to do was look at the 10 most difficult games of the teams within the division. And I mean, two of the top most difficult games as far as the opponent they're facing and being where it is. Obviously a home game should be easier than a road game, but I mentioned those two back-to-back games of at Buffalo, or first off, it's at Green Bay and then at Buffalo. To me, those are the two most difficult games any team in the NFC West has on their remaining schedule. And when I look at the most difficult games remaining among all NFC West teams, the team that I would say right now has the advantage in the division because they're 5-4 coming off an impressive victory over the Chicago Bears, and Chicago Bears are a 500 team. But um, the easiest schedule remaining is Arizona, and the only game. Oh, for instance, I did the top 10 most difficult games for the division teams. I had the 49ers with three of the most difficult 10 games. So the game of Green Bay, the game of Buffalo, and then the Week 17 game at home against Detroit, which right now Detroit is clearly the best team in the NFC. I had Seattle with three of the most difficult games in that top 10, and also the Rams with three of the most difficult games in that top 10. The only game where Arizona, and I don't think Arizona is a great team, but I do think that they're improving. They seem to be on a bit of a roll right now. But when you look at their schedule, and I'm talking about the non-division games, Arizona's most difficult non-division game is at Minnesota. So they have they face the Jets at home. They face Buffalo is at I guess Buffalo. Yeah, that's a tough game, obviously for Arizona. A tough game for Buffalo in Arizona. Um, what else do we have here? But that's it. At Carolina, So I really think that when you look at the division and the fact that the Cardinals are 2-0 now in the division with wins against the Rams and the 49ers. They basically already beaten the two best teams, the two best other teams in the NFC West. So the game that the 49ers, I'm sure were hoping that the Bears would beat the Cardinals, but the Cardinals really put up a good defensive effort and had 213 yards rushing. And so, it wasn't the Kyler Murray show other than running a little bit, him and James Conner. But it was really the defense that's starting to lead the way for the Arizona Cardinals. And then I'm sure the 49ers would have liked to have seen Seattle win that game at home because now the Rams are 4-4. They're right there in it. Seattle is 4-5, and Seattle really let this thing get away. 49ers, one game that they've won in the division thus far was against Seattle. So I'm sure that they would like to be able to, I'm sure they would have liked for the Rams to fall another game back because the Rams have now won three straight games and they appear to be playing pretty good football. They did have some big plays in that game at Seattle to pull out that 26-20 overtime victory. Cameron Kinchins had a 103-yard interception return for a touchdown. He had another interception around the 5-yard line against Geno Smith. And then the Rams in overtime had the big stop on fourth down, and then they won it with Matthew Stafford's 39-yard touchdown pass to Demarcus Robinson. So I would say right now, um, the 49ers, their room for their margin for error is very small. And I do think that they'll be in really good shape if they run the table in the NFC West, but they haven't shown us through 8 games that they're capable of doing that. So they're going to really have to turn it on in the second half of the season. And maybe that's something that they have done very well in the past, over the past 3 seasons, after or in the second half of the year, in their final 9 games of the season, the past 3 years, they're 23-4. And theoretically, they should be playing better football in the second half of the season. Christian McCaffrey is expected back at practice on Monday, potentially Yetur Gross-Matos, maybe even Jake Moody, the kicker. But down the line, Dre Greenlaw, perhaps Talanoa Hufanga, backup offensive lineman, John Feliciano. So there are reasons why the 49ers could be playing better football, but they just haven't shown that consistency through the first 8 games. And when you look at it, what's been their best games? They really haven't beaten anybody. Their best win would be against who? I guess the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys, they're not very good, and they lost again on Sunday. They lost to the Atlanta Falcons 27-21. They fall to 3-5 on the year. So 49ers are going to have to turn it on. They're going to have to play a lot better. I think they can, but if we're just looking at, reasons of, being skeptical because we haven't seen it yet, those are the reasons why. And so I did mention they will be getting some players back. Christian McCaffrey is a player that his absence has not hurt them in the running game, but where it has hurt them is in the red zone. 49ers had the best red zone percentage of touchdowns last season, 68%. They're 27th in the league this year. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that, McCaffrey is a great red zone player. Led the league last year with 18 touchdowns inside the red zone. So his ability to not only run the ball between the tackles, run it to the outside, but also catch passes and draw coverage to him and also blitz pickup. I mean, he's so good in that area. So the 49ers will be adding some guys. They should be adding some guys. They're expecting to be adding some top line players in the second half of the year. And they can also look at the trade market. I would expect the trade market to be very active when you have a team like, well, for instance, Denver, they fall to 5-4. Are they really a factor? Are they going to unload some players? Are they going to trade, um, some guys like Baron Browning, a linebacker, DJ Jones, that kind of thing? Those are the speculation that's out there. New England fell to 2-7. They are in the mix as far as maybe trading some of their guys. I don't think Kendrick Bourne will be traded, but there's a receiver that they had as a healthy inactive, Tyquan Thornton, somebody like that, or even Devon Godcha. Would he be somebody, a defensive tackle? There's talk of Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants. They're 2-7, so that could be somebody. Pro Football Talk is reporting that Zadarius Smith from Cleveland more than likely going to Detroit. Detroit needs a pass rusher to replace Aiden Hutchinson, so that would just be another acquisition for them, another area where they can get stronger here for the second half of the year. But I wouldn't say the 49ers are in trouble, but it's they gave up too many games, include most specifically the game against the Rams, the game against the Cardinals, where they had those big second half leads and they let them get away. They also showed other games where they almost. I know it doesn't count as almost, but they still showed that vulnerability of allowing the opposition to get back in it. The game up in Seattle where they had the big lead, Seattle gets back in it. They had the big lead against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys get back in it. So that's where it is. I don't think Sunday went well for the 49ers. They obviously would have liked the Bears to beat the Cardinals, and I think that they would have preferred that Seattle wins at home against the Rams and kind of slow down that Rams machine, because right now I shouldn't say a machine. They're not exactly a machine, but they are 4-4. They do have a head-to-head win over the 49ers, as do the Cardinals have that head-to-head win over the 49ers. So the other part of this is that I think it's going to be really difficult for an NFC West team to get a wild card berth, because right now the three teams that are kind of in line for a wild card are all more than two games above 500. So right now teams are just kind of floating around the 500 mark in the NFC West. No team has separated themselves. The Cardinals take, a narrow lead in the division with a 5-4 record. They're the only team that's over 500 in the division, and the 49ers, their margin of error isn't great as they open the second half of the season on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'll be back throughout the week to provide more updates. If you want me to hit any topics, leave your comments in the comments section. In the meantime, if you haven't already, subscribe, turn on your notifications, like, and comment. And that's it for now.